Welcome to the European Edge. My name is Andrii Suslenko, and I'm going to be your host for the next 17 weeks. And man, I've been waiting for this moment. This is my dream come true right now. Right, so we're coming to you from the New Europe, and you would ask, what the is the New Europe? Is it a place, or it's a synthie-pop cover band about to ruin It's the Final Countdown? Or maybe, just maybe, Europe with 20% fewer calories per serving? Well, no. To simply put, this is Europe that exists outside of this studio, the big, fast-moving and funky world that lies east of Berlin, that you all know, and that stretches through Ukraine, Poland, the Czech Republic, Albania, which is Hungary, Dracula's home of Romania, and onwards through the always peaceful Balkans and beyond to Tbilisi. And man, you should know, it's noisy out there. We all, us here, and you, who joins us from the United States, the United Kingdom, and elsewhere in the world. We all live in historic times, where things like the promise of threat of AI, climate change, shift in geopolitics, and the biggest land war since World War II, all of that competes for the space in my head, in your heads, and in news headlines and social media feeds, and all of that happens on daily basis. Will Elon Musk really cage fight Mark Zuckerberg? Why does any Kardashian have a career? And who is Q from QAnon? Well, you want to know? And so do I, and so do we. So with that, let's start the show and find out together. And we start with this. In Ukraine, when people hear that something in Russia has, or I don't know, caught fire, burned to the ground, or gone f***ing boom, they like to mark the occasion with the loudest song that you can imagine. But when something like the first attack on Kerch Bridge that connects Russia to Crimea happened last year, the song making was spontaneous. This is the song. All right. Earlier this week, Ukrainians, or was it shrug emoji, for the second time attacked and seriously damaged the Kerch Bridge. So let's take a moment to remember Kerch. The Kerch Bridge, a young, cocky newcomer to the Crimean scene, now struck down tragically so early in life. It's once again great promise as an architectural eyesore, Kremlin penis extender, and symbolic stick in the eye to the Ukrainians everywhere has been cut short by a cunning late attack which leaves it clinging to life. So farewell now, Kerch Bridge. We'll call this 4 out of 5. Next time we hope to go full 5 out of 5. President Vladimir Putin called the attack senseless and cruel. And in the direct response to Putin, the kettle called the pot by the phone to say, "We can retire now. There's no need to use us again as a metaphor. Bye." Following the attack, Putin elected not to extend the Black Sea grain export deal, which halts Ukraine's ability to export grain to the world. You know what I say?
It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. I tell you, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't.
That's right. It just doesn't fucking matter. Why? Because Ukraine has plenty of food. What they're going to lose is money. But that's just in Ukraine. Putin's stance is likely to put your food prices through the roof. World food prices into disarray and increased starvation in some of the poorest parts of the world, where people live on $2 a day and rely on cheap Ukrainian grain in order to survive. And as we all know, the ones who are at most risk from malnutrition are, of course, children, infants, or basically anyone under the age of 5. Anyone that is younger than Putin's favorite bridge. In response to the bridge attack, Russia went with its usual Pavlovian response and attacked Odessa with drones and missiles to just destroy these grain supplies at their sources. They failed, and so again... That's right, it just doesn't matter. Putin thought Ukraine would be overrun in a day. Well, it's been a year and a half, and recently he was almost taken over. almost taken over by a guy who looks like Mr. Freeze's stunt double. Yeah, so do whatever you want, Putin, because it just doesn't matter. One final thought on this story, though. Just over a year ago, Dmitry Medvedev, aka that neighbor who assures you he'll look after your goldfish while you are away, but then he eats it, stated that any aggression in Crimea would bring the real judgment day to Ukraine. Yeah, well, he was right. After the recent Kerch Bridge bombing, 100% of Ukrainians judged that is a very good idea indeed. Well, moving on. While Ukrainians are celebrating, Russian generals are dropping like bad guys in my favorite movie, John Wick. What is truly the worst job in the world? Well, some might think slaughterhouse workers, or portable toilet cleaners, or a writer for a political comedy show on a website called The Gaze. Come on, guys, that's not bad. But the truth is that nothing compares to a job as Russian general. I mean, even kamikaze pilots and suicide bombers have better job security than these guys. We all know that thousands of Russian troops, actually hundreds of thousands of Russian troops, needfully died in Ukraine, but things aren't going so well for their generals, with snipers shooting them on the front lines while Putin throws them out of back windows of Kremlin. Following the death of 15 Russian generals in Russo-Ukrainian war, plus those who have been fired or just went missing, just where do you think Vladimir Putin will look for new leaders? How do you think he's gonna cast the role that nobody wants? Well, Gérard Depardieu is local these days, but much too busy avoiding paying his taxes. And Steven Seagal, who I loved watching in childhood, has sort of lost his, well, shall I say gravitas or mind? Yeah, perfect, that's it. He has lost his f***ing mind. Well, the answer is a lot simpler than you might think. I simply placed this ad on Craigslist. Look, wanted. Russian generals, see the world, no experience necessary, qualifications, self-starter or self-hater, good comms skill, must be able to pretend to work well with others, and of course, enjoys riding his T-54 tank. Also flexible regarding a variety of war crimes, and genocide is a plus. Well, benefits, casual Fridays, company events, competitive salaries, delicious canned meals, and travel opportunities. And of course, finally, very frequent and unscheduled field promotions. And remember, we are an equal opportunity employer. All of our employees have an equal opportunity of A, disappearing, dying, or being thrown out of a third-floor window. Apply now. Best job in the world. But not all border conflicts are so fatal, and while Ukraine might have issues with some of its neighbors, they're not beyond a good joke every now and then. In a decisive military victory, Ukrainians last month used drones to drop potatoes on nearby Belarusian border guards. Boo, boo, boo. Tension has always been high in this border, where Ukrainian guards have long called their Belarusian counterparts potatoes because all of the potato chips they eat. No, trust me, I'm not making this up. This is real. Just take a look at the fake-looking headline that is actually totally real, I swear. The Belarus guards ran thinking grenades or more deadly weapon would be going to be employed. But instead, the guards were just julienned, scalloped, and drenched in a tasty bearnaise sauce. The Ukrainians were so pleased with the success of their attack that they're now planning on further vegetable-based airborne operations, including my wife's favorite, cauliflower, bok choy, and, of course, creamed corn. The Belarus response to these Spud missiles was very predictable. For a nation that has shelled Ukraine, provided safe harbor to Russian troops and weapons, and of course, whose leader is the Kremlin's bestie and BFF. What they did? They just whined.
Отдельные случаи провокации с украинской стороны. Последний случай в пункте упрощенного пропуска под Добрянка. Оскорбительные жесты, угрожающие в сторону пограничников.
The Ukrainian military, however, has shown restraint, drawing the line and dropping kale on the Belarus guards. Kale is gross and slimy, said one commander, and it's strictly prohibited by the Geneva Convention, as it should be. Staying in the area, the warlord and the Where's Waldo wannabe Yevgeny Prigozhin has finally resurfaced. You know where? In Belarus, over a month after his Wagner army staged an attempt coup on the Kremlin. He was sighted on camera on this very grainy Telegram video, analysts were able to positively ID Prigozhin from the outlines of his very distinctive silhouette. Even though it's very hard to tell apart from the silhouettes of the many other gluttons who like to spend their time fooling around in the forest with strange men. All right, war check. Let's go on to other cataclysms. Well, am I hot or not? Well, am I? Now, that could be more inviting than the long, golden, sun-soaked days of summer. Time to trade in long pants for shorts you got on Etsy. Crack a cold beer and get outside just to enjoy the balmy weather. Myself, I always like to... Hold on a sec. Okay. All right, sorry. I'm told you actually may want to skip going outside these days. And one moment. Yeah? Okay. Okay, do not go outside. I repeat, outside is bad, outside is hot, outside no es bueno. Claro? See? All right. We all know that record high temperatures have been sweeping the globe, with highs in the US Southwest reaching over 120 degrees Fahrenheit, which in Britain and in other European countries would be 48 degrees Celsius. That's hot. Heat this kind can have many detrimental effects on you. Sunburn, sun poison, heat exhaustion, heat stroke, dehydration, and in some notable cases, a little bit of delusion. See for yourself.
My head started to get really hot, so I drank some cold water. But it didn't do nothing. So I laid in the bathtub for a while. And then I realized that it was my head that was making my head so hot. So I went into my kitchen and I shaved it all off.
And Pedro, Pedro there is not the only person suffering from heat delusion. Closer to home, the blob-like Bulgarian leader Rumen Radev feverishly insisted that Ukraine is trying to prolong the war. What the f***? While in Germany, politicians backed out of an agreement to repair Ukrainian Leopard tanks because they suddenly realized it might cost money. Mein Gott, Fritz, der Tanks ein shitload of Geld ist gekosten. Natürlich, yeah. Well, that is a surprise. The old saying goes, a leopard cannot change its spots, and the German mechanic cannot change the tank battery. And finally, the heat not only produces some dumb thoughts, but also, as this video shows, some wonderfully dumb games too.
Watch it out. 3, 2, 1, go. Lyle! Oh, Lyle, you can't see anything! Oh, man, are you going to take that, Lyle?
Well, at least they keep it really cool. And still, even with all of these horrific effects of the heat, a recent survey concluded that 84% of Ukrainian citizens would rather be hit by a heat wave than missiles and drone attacks. For our next story, let's circle back to the always competitive contest for craziest state in the United States. And we land on Florida, the home of orange juice, Gloria Estefan, and really good ideas. Recently, Florida Governor Ron I'm a Real Man DeSantis established a state guard, which he has secretly been training as a full f***ing combat force. Well, apparently, the guy needs this elite unit to pursue his very noble plan to deprive gay people of their rights and children of their education. And also, to rigorously enforce the hours of early bird dinner specials for senior citizens. And maybe, just maybe, he also needed this army to help a little with his plans to rule the free world. Well, Governor, I gotta say something. I don't really think this is gonna work for you because someone in our neck of the woods already tried that. And look, here's what happened to Yevgeny Prigozhin and Wagner Group. And now, cue the dramatic music. After securing a foothold in strategically confusing city of Bakhmut, they began a daring march on Moscow, inching closer and closer with each passing hour. The world held its breath and they failed, right? In what many have described as the military equivalent of a stripper leaping on stage and missing the pole. Stick for the strippers. Though, let's note that they did get closer to Moscow in 8 hours than they got to Kyiv in, more than 500 days and counting. Meanwhile, cannibalism, Hollywood's eats itself. The writer's strike against the studios and streaming services entered its 3rd month and has morphed into an actor's strike. And isn't it just typical that the writers had to work on something for months before the on-screen talent like myself decided to get involved? A major part of their concerns involves unfettered use of AI. Writers feared that studio executives could use AI and ChatGPT to just instantly write crappy scripts for free. Judging from the amount of franchise movies we have seen, 7 Transformers that I've seen, 8 Mission Impossibles that is coming, and 12, if I'm not mistaken, Fast and Furiousness, one would assume that ChatGPT has been used to generate movies for decades already. But let's dig deeper into this shit. Here to speak on behalf of AI is ChatGPT. Welcome. ChatGPT, let's start with something simple. How would you rewrite the Smash TV success? And salute to the English obsession with class, Downton Abbey. Okay, interesting. How about our show? What sort of headline might you come up with for us? Shit, man, that was harsh. All right, let's do something else. Let's do a movie that you're familiar with. What about the classic, like Terminator? All right, spoiler alert, but isn't that how the movie really ends? Fair enough, okay, fair enough. Don't call us, we'll call you. In the opinion of this host, me, the film industry is under no threat from AI at this time. But similar pushbacks against artificial intelligence has emerged from a very surprising quarter. The Chinese Communist Party has just announced plans to censor chatbots that are run by companies like Alibaba and SenseTime. Access to information is not something that Beijing government has ever been very comfortable with. But here, at the European Edge, we have an answer to that. ChatCCP. ChatCCP is a stunning new AI that can talk to you about anything you like, except Tiananmen Square, Uyghurs and Taiwan, Hong Kong, the South China Sea, Ai Weiwei, Maoism, Taoism, Tibet, and of course, Wuhan Institute of Virology, just to name a few. The NHS, of course, Britain's National Health Service, the free healthcare system that makes bankrupt Americans shout communism at their TV screens, just turned, imagine, 75. In the recent analysis of 11 developed countries by the Michigan Journal of Economics, Britain's healthcare ranked behind Norway, the Netherlands, and Australia, but was way ahead of the United States, which got a special I participated trophy that it was unable to pick up due to untreated back pain. We understand you. Despite increasing complaints ranging from funding gaps to staff shortages, Britain is going all out with its celebration of the NHS, ranging from the No Bed Parade to guess when your operation will actually happen. Really, the only procedure that NHS can get you into on time is your own funeral. And those 75 years also coincide with the average number of weeks it takes to schedule an appointment with a specialist. Hello, dentists. Which really makes me wonder, how did they manage to keep Queen alive for so long? All right, time to dig a little deeper on a subject we've been touching on for the entire episode. ChatGPT, spin control, who owns the message, who creates it, and who buys it, is crucial to governments, conflicts, and narratives around the globe. At times, it seems the world is devolving. Teddy Roosevelt once said, if you grab them by their balls, then their hearts and minds will follow. Almost 70 years later, Donald Trump famously bragged about women that if you grab them by the... Okay, anyway, all of you know that. The point I want to make today is that what Roosevelt said is not true. Information and disinformation is more powerful than even Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it can change the course of human events. Much like my underwear collection, when it comes to the manipulation of information, there's nothing new to the desire to spread false narratives. For example, remember that really short French conqueror called Napoleon? He was not short at all. He was above average height, like myself. It's believed that British political cartoonists used to draw him as being really short, just to annoy him. And after a while, people just started believing he was that. And this is a trend that goes on today. Imagine, as we have it in good authority, that Donald Trump's hands are really huge, giantly big, believe me. And in the 20th century, people only got better at disinformation. And the Nazis are often seen as having perfected it, taking disinformation to horrifying new levels, or to amazing new levels if you're Kanye West. Hitler's brand ambassador, Joseph Goebbels, once famously said, "I love when people underestimate me and then become pleasantly surprised." Well, guess what? Joseph Goebbels has never said that. Kim Kardashian did, but you believed me. And that's how easy it is to spread disinformation. Well, just like Kim Kardashian, other 21st century political leaders are now able to control the narratives with alternative facts, thanks to the internet and social media. And the speed of which false information can travel has soared to a volume only once imaginable for pornography and my favorite cat videos. In 2016, for the first time, disinformation seems to have affected the national election of a global superpower, when Donald J. Trump's social media team was busted using a data company called Cambridge Analytica to profile voters to feed them targeted disinformation. Well, yeah, that same year, Russian hackers were caught using an army of bots to spread this same disinformation so that Trump could defeat, you know her, Hillary Clinton, which, as we know, he totally did. Well, historically, Russian citizens are no strangers to disinformation, with Russian media going to great lengths to convince the country's public that up is down, don't look up, left is right, and Steven Seagal is America's greatest living actor, when everybody knows it's really Jared Leto. And since they invaded Ukraine, Russia has thrown every form of disinformation possible into the mix. So let's take a look at some of the disinformation techniques they and others use. The false flag operation. Well, to simply put, a false flag operation is when the blame for an event or a set of events is put on someone other than the person who really caused it. In the US, the conspiracy theorist and the anger guru, Alex Jones, was recently ordered to pay $1.4 billion to the victims of Sandy Hook school shooting in the US, after he claimed that the shooting was a false flag operation designed to curb gun rights. Not exactly a success for Alex, who perhaps should have stuck to his obsession with gay amphibians.
I don't like them putting chemicals in the water that turn the friggin' frogs gay.
Thank you, Alex. A more New Europe-centered false flag operation comes from Russia, where many completely unbiased pundits have advanced the idea that some attacks on Ukrainian territories were carried out by, yeah, you guessed it right, Ukrainians themselves. Well, when this false flag gambit didn't work, the Russian media machine pivoted to, yeah, the denial is not just a river in Egypt approach. Some Russian officials have taken to simply denying that any invasion of Ukraine has taken place. Wow. They have called the conflict a civil war and blamed separatist forces for the conflict. This reminds me of when I was a small boy and I told my mom my brother had given himself a black eye. And no, she did not believe me either when I said that Western shadow armies and separatists were to blame. Well, then like so many, when in doubt, the Russians played their version of the race card. Right, it's all just ethnic tensions deception. In this one, Russian officials exaggerated ethnic divisions within Ukraine, claiming that the Russian-speaking population near the border was being persecuted by everyday Ukrainians. This one was, at least within Russia, something of a success as Putin sold this invasion. And Russian citizens bought the imperialistic idea that the Kremlin was invading Ukraine in a noble attempt to protect their kin. Of course, this is bullshit, and historically, Russia has used the idea of kinship to bomb its kin in places like Chechnya and Georgia, and many more, and also to invade their kin in Crimea. Disinformation like this relies on confusion and an easily sold story, and sadly, just sadly, the Russian people eat it up like black caviar. But let's do the exercise. Just imagine if the US used this logic to invade Canada.
We share the longest border, and actually, I could just say a great country. I love Canada. I've always loved Canada because of its natural beauty. Why should we let it become Cuba? Like, why don't we liberate it? We're spending all this money to liberate Ukraine from the Russians. Why are we not sending an armed force north to liberate Canada from Trudeau? And I mean it.
Or Spain to invade Belgium, or the UK to invade Ireland. All right, maybe let's scratch that last one. It happened already. So there you are. These are just a few ways that disinformation is deployed, and there are many, many more others. All right, let's talk a bit more about propaganda and misinformation. Joining me from her embed with fighting forces in Kharkiv, Ukraine, is Pekun, a former Yale student of Taiwanese descent, who actually has left academia to fight in Ukraine and for Ukraine, and who uses blatant sex appeal across Instagram and her provocative OnlyFans page to tell stories of the war and the real impact of this war to the world. Pekun, hi, welcome to the show.
Thank you for the introduction, very nice.
Really happy to have you. First question is, do you know that OnlyFans is really super duper pro-Ukrainian these days, and the whole war, I think they've been supporting us a lot, and the models like yourself, they've been very supportive.
I didn't know that. I don't really follow other people on OnlyFans so much, so I'm going to count on viewers like you to tell me what's going on with the zeitgeist.
Anyway, you said that you don't really do the actual warfare, so you don't go and kill Russians with your gun. But what you do is you emotionally support Ukrainian army.
Anyways, yeah, so I'm a former model. I used to have a business doing entertainment for children. You know, I'm basically this person that you hire to come and fulfill your wishes. You know, so basically I exist here, and people look at me and they're just like, well, what are you doing here? You know, why is this in Kharkiv? Why is this in Kramatorsk? Why is this in Kharkova? Right? And then, you know, I just kind of tell them like, the good Lord Satan sent me down to reward you for a job well done. So you must have done something good, because why else would I be here?
And is there any hidden agenda with you doing this, with these amazing skills that you possess?
I just want to say in public that the SVU already looked at me 3 weeks after I arrived here on behalf of the International Legion and formally cleared me of being a Chinese spy.
Wonderful. So you're not a Chinese spy, which is perfect.
I'm not a Chinese spy.
If you could see how anti-Ukrainian Russian propaganda works, and if you could compare it to how, let's say, Chinese anti-Taiwanese propaganda work, what would you see and what would you tell us?
Yeah, Taiwan is probably the closest analog to Ukraine in the Asia Pacific. There's a lot of similarities. We also ran from the communists and tried to establish our own nation, and we're doing so much better than them, and they're so jelly and they just want us back, you know. But come on, incompatible systems of governments and philosophy towards personal liberty and personal sovereignty, you know. So, you know, that happens. But the funny thing is that my family came from Taiwan. Like they came from Taiwan 30 years ago, and I have two pro-Trump uncles. You know Trump. Have you heard of this man? Trump, aka Mr. I will solve the Ukraine war in 24 hours if elected, aka Mr. Putin also likes it when I work the shaft and gargle the balls. Okay, so yeah, they love. Anyway, so I have a close family, even though we're Taiwanese, and my uncles literally told me, I only trust two news sources, okay? Right. Two news sources. One, News, and the other, RT.
Man. And how do you live with that?
It really shocked me, man. I didn't know they were like that. The Russian propaganda pipeline is very strong, especially among conservatives. Like, if you are a Fox viewer, they will specifically target issues that you care about, and basically like say the things that no one else is saying, and then they become a very reputable news source. Then they'll kind of pull you in with some other stuff too. Yeah.
Now we're gonna get to something more funnier and a bit more embarrassing for me, at least, but not for you. Right. So I know that you speak 6 or 7 languages. How many?
I speak English, Mandarin, some German. I lived in Germany for a month or two. French. I lived in France for like a month in 2015. Some Spanish. I'm trying to forget it because I had some bad experiences. Hrvatski, Croatian. Just a little bit. Chut. Yeah, and then I guess a little bit of Serbic at this point.
Now I'm going to ask you to use that knowledge to translate in these languages the very famous Ukrainian song, which is called Putins Response. Do you know it?
Oh, that's the song of my people of Kharkiv.
Perfect, because it originated in Kharkiv.
Ooh, I don't know the curse words. Okay, so I guess it'd be like Putin. It would be like or like I don't know. It's cursing. Okay, let me think about it. Hold on. Like, okay. Ooh. Putin 是一个大笨蛋.
That's perfect. The Foreign Legion. How would you describe the emotion behind it? Like when you get there and you see all the guys and girls who are fighting for Ukraine and for whatever motivation they have, how is the narrative there, and also how is the atmosphere there?
Oh, it's been really cool working with the International Legion for about 3 months, because specifically they are the foreign fighters from all over the world who came to give their lives potentially for a country they formerly had no association with. So I got to meet soldiers and volunteers from all over all over the world. It's like a convention of, the kind of people who come during a crisis. It's my hentai.
Wonderful. Would you add that to your book? And you would tell them that it's me who asked that question?
Yeah. My book is going to be the first pornographic autobiography to win a Pulitzer.
Oh, wow. I wish you luck on that. I wish you luck on that.
I'm kidding.
And in the very end, I think it takes some good intellect and some brain of yours to do what you do. And that's where we jump into Yale thing. What are the most important skills that you have obtained at Yale and you are using right now in your life, and they're really, really helpful to you? And which were the worst? You never need this.
The most important skill I got from going to Yale is, or halfway going to Yale, is do whatever you want. I didn't need Yale. I needed the validation, or I thought I needed the validation of it, and then when it came to actually spending potentially $100,000 and then going into healthcare management and then having my life railroaded like a train into the future I was supposed to have. No, just do whatever you want. Don't go to Yale. Don't go to Yale. Go to Ukraine. Just do whatever you want. You'll end up happier somehow.
I agree. Do that, do this. Doesn't matter. Do whatever. Slava Ukraini.
Heroyam slava.
Perfect. Fan Pekun was our guest today. Thank you so much for being here with us. All right, that's it for tonight. That's all the time we have. You're watching us Sunday this time, but next week, please watch us on Friday. And also, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like, comment, dislike if you want. We need it. We just started. This is the first episode, so please do. Also, please join us on our TikTok, on our Facebook, and on our Instagram. And also, if you want to ask me for a date, you can do that. Actually, you don't. Just email me, info@europeanedge.show. My name is Andrii Suslenko, and I was happy to be with you at our first episode of European Edge. Bye.